Look at this, folks. Cam's in the chair, ready to roll. We're going to talk Miami football with you for the next 60 right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all stopping by. Before you get settled, before you get comfortable, before you start to learn from this guy, hit the like button. Share these videos out on social media. You can do that very easily. Just copy the link, share it out to those that don't know that we are here talking Canes with all of you. Cam Underwood, State of the U. How you doing, Cam?
Good. Hanging out. So you guys are really paying attention on the video. Crisp and clean presentation is a new computer machine. So we have that and everything. And also, I do have ye olde microphone, but we're going to go with the native audio in here this week and see how this integrated microphone situation works. But yeah, good to be here. Good to be back. Talk a little Canes. Yeah.
And of course, I don't have access to the complete wardrobe from day to day, but a bit of a different color scheme there as well.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I usually change into a Miami shirt before I come on, but this is just a normal, peach kind of T-shirt that I was wearing today and left it on. So, yeah, hey, a little something different on that side as well. But glad to be here. Good to see you guys. And talk some Canes. So let's get it.
All right. The offensive depth chart is out, as well as the defensive side. And what stands out to you is what needs to be worked out along the offensive front. That is nothing new, not just for this program, for every program. The offensive line combinations just are the most complex portion of the personnel combination juggle for any team. Rarely does a team show up on day one and say, those are the five from left to right. That's what we're going with. That's all we've got. And obviously the second unit is extremely important as well. And I just don't think that the average fan gives enough credence to the complexity and the mixing and matching of what needs to be done up front, because your right guard may not be able to play certain other positions. He may be really weak on the left side. Your two best guards might both play better right or left guard than the other. There are all sorts of complexities and challenges that you face to try to get that right combination.
Yeah, complexities. And, for a long time, the big complexity was not having actual tackle-sized humans, miscasting people who really should have been guards playing tackle. Your Trevor Darlings of the world, your Casey McDermott's of the world, definitely could have played at Miami, should have played. There was Miami caliber guys miscast as tackles. We don't have that issue anymore. And so really looking forward to taking another step forward on the offensive line this year. And that's really where I think everything starts, because if you look back at the injury issues with Tyler Van Dyke, that was because of offensive line play. If you look at the, struggles that the running backs had, some of it was like not necessarily seeing the hole, but also like those holes were there for only a fraction of a second that they should have been there. So some of the blocking issues from past. But yeah, in the first couple of days of camp, we've had Zion Nelson left tackle, Javion Cohen left guard, Matt Lee, the transfer. Javion Cohen from Alabama was transfer, who started at Alabama and left of his own volition. So take that, for what you will. I know that some people have said, they tried to force him out, but or they weren't willing to let him play tackle, which is why he left. I know I heard a bunch of people say that over the course of the offseason. He's playing left guard and seems to be fine with that. So I think that was maybe a little bit of sour grapes from the Alabama program that they, seeded out through some media members there. Matt Lee, an All-American center from UCF at center. Anez Cooper, one of the bright gems of last recruiting class from Mount Pleasant, Alabama, is in at right guard, and true freshman Francis Mauigoa at right tackle. I know that you kind of led in saying, hey, maybe sometimes they don't have the five right from the beginning and set it and forget it. I would love it if that were the five and that five goes. Hopefully knocking on my desk here without any injury concerns or things like that. Obviously, I think that we're going to have some guys who can rotate in from time to time throughout the course of this year, namely Jalen Rivers, who did start a bunch last year. I think that he's probably your number 6 offensive linemen as of right now. And then, developing a couple other guys, to be able to step in. But that top five there, that really, I think, is the best and most talented group. And that's where I would like to see Miami continue to be. Obviously, they need to continue to show it, prove it, earn their way onto the field. They've earned it to that level so far. They need to continue to show that. But, reading the practice reports from everybody who's there, because I'm not, it's just a real stark difference physically what Miami is bringing on both lines, but especially the offensive line. Like you got dudes like Anez Cooper, he's 6'5.5", 335, 340, playing guard. Matthew McCoy is a guy who's been shouted out recently for his development and everything. Dude is 6'6.5", pushing 320 as a tackle. He was a borderline 3-star recruit in this last class. Frankie Tinnelau was not even there, and I saw that dude in person at the stadium. I think it was Middle Tennessee game lost when we had a bunch of people show up. A bunch of recruits came to the stadium for that day, and that whole recruiting group was walking past. So we shared the tunnel as they were coming from their seating area underneath the stadium, and we're coming from the press box to go to the interview room. We were in the tunnel next to them and everything as a team. I think it was Middle Tennessee. They blocked it off. Middle Tennessee went to their locker room before we crossed over and went to the interview room. And I was standing next to Frankie Tinnelau, and I'm 6 feet tall, not the 6'4" listed in my high school basketball program. We already know that, but easily I was. Oh, okay. It was a clear incline looking up at Frankie Tinnelau. So that's a big boy also. Got to be 6'5", 6'6", over 3 bills. So it's just we're bringing the kind of size along the lines that we need to see, that Mario Cristobal desires to have clearly. And starting with that first 5 on offense, on the offensive line, I think that's going to really, really, really be integral to the improvement that we want to see and need to see on this team. And the performance of this team is really, really, really going to start there.
Unless you're somebody that has the knowledge and is a strong observer of the team like yourself, the advanced metrics help us out with the offensive line and some of the positions in football that we didn't have years ago, where we could just go, okay, quarterback, there's the stats, running back, there's the stats, offensive line, difficult, almost head-to-head. Other people tell us who's good and who's not good unless you watch the team over and over and over. When is the last time Miami had the type of offensive line that you felt was, this is like a first-class offensive line?
Man, a long time, honestly. I'm just trying to run back through CFB stats, which only goes back to 2009, but that team along the offensive line. Oh, this goes alphabetically. Yikes. Don't love that. So maybe not that year, but at least a decade. I want to say that 11 team had some guys along the offensive line. I would have to, 11 was John Feliciano, his freshman year. So you're really going to go back to Feliciano was a senior in 14. So 13, 14, I think was really the last time. Because there were other years where you might have had some talent. Even if you look at the 17 team, that's George Brown, who, transferred from LSU, but did less than nothing. Navon Donaldson's freshman year, his best year. Gaynor is a freshman. That was a 17 year where, smoke and mirrors to 10-0 or 8-0.
10-0.
Because we missed a game. No, because we missed a game that year.
Yeah, 10-0. And they lost the last 3. 10-3.
Oh, we did win 10. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. So there were some players on that squad, but really when you felt you could really lean on somebody else, you almost got to go back to the Al Golden days, honestly. Like I'm saying, like you got to go back then, to the early teens to really think like we had an offensive line that was just like come off the ball, hit you in the mouth. We're going to move people and just do what needs to be done. And as Mark is looking through whatever magazine, throw up the X for Falcon or TRX in the house. Good to see you, brother.
The Phil Steele rundown on the offensive line is It's kind of tough to find exactly where it starts here. He loves to backtrack a couple seasons just to kind of bring you into the current season. Here's the rundown. In 2021, Miami led the nation with 190 career starts returning, but then only rushed for 128 yards per game, 3.7 yards per carry, and allowed 30 sacks. Last year, they had 3 starters back and 137 career starts. Left tackle Zion Nelson was first-team All-ACC in preseason, but played just 1 game due to injury. Miami matched 21, averaging 128 yards rushing per game, 3.7. How strange is that? 2 consecutive years, 128 yards per rushing and 3.7 yards per carry? But sacks increased to 36. That's what I'm reading right here, and it's not even a typo. Like he says, that can't be. That would be a statistical anomaly of verified error.
If you round it, but like last year was 128.3 at 3.74.
Okay.
And the previous year was 127.67 at 3.69. So if you use rounding to the 10th,
okay.
Yeah. Like I just looked at it because look, I know you saw my face live because I'm on this other tab, and I was like, rounding to a 10th. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. But the sacks increased to 36 last season. This year
right there is a huge issue. And on one of those sacks is where Tyler Van Dyke got that AC joint injury, which plagued the rest of our season. So,
which was one of the more difficult things that I saw last season was him trying to play against Florida State.
I was so vexed by that. I was so
was hard
angry.
To watch.
Like, I was like, what are you doing? And I was just like, I had written that whole week. I was like, he's not going to play. Like, this is asinine. Like, why are you even bringing it up? And he came out there and everything. And I was like, you could tell that he was just like gritting his teeth. And like even the 15-yard little just in warmups was just like, and you could just see him like, okay, I'm moving around, but like doing the whole dead arm, like, yeah, I'm good. Like, okay, coach, like whatever. I'm like, that shoulder is not right. And for anybody who watches sports, like knees and elbows, like intermediary joints on the, extremities, those are things you can recover from, like Tommy John surgery, ACL replacement, knees and elbows, cool. But you go to the articulation point, to the torso, your shoulders and hips, those ain't careers. And I'm like, that was very uncomfortable to watch. And I said it at the time. I tweeted him before the game. I said, this is the wrong decision. I get what he's trying to do. I understand wanting to be a gamer. I went to the University of Miami, guys. Graduated. Trust me. I understand the impetus to want to play against Florida State. That wasn't it.
Yeah. So this year, Miami loses left tackle John Campbell, 12/18. Don't know what that means exactly. It has something to do with starts and maybe career starts. 2-time All-ACC right tackle DJ Scaife, center Ja'Kai Clark, and right guard Justice Olawasi. I don't remember pronouncing that name.
Just remove the E,
Olawason. They get Nelson back from injury and add Alabama's 2-year starter and left guard Javion Cohen, second team All-ACC or All-American Conference center Matt Lee, and Phil Steele's number 2 and number 3 true freshmen. Career starts are still at 120. Cristobal is a much improved offensive line, and he molded Joe Moore Award contenders at Oregon. Phil Steele says it's the 4th best offensive line in the ACC and number 34 in the country.
If we play to that level, then that's 8 wins. If that unit plays to 4th best in the league, which I think it should be, based upon talent and hopefully utilization as well. asking them to do the things that they do and having them do it really, really well. But yeah, man, this is I don't think you can overstate the importance of the offensive line to the overall improvement of this team and the performance on the field. I think with them playing better and being better, first of all, you're going to have your star quarterback play, hopefully, the majority or entirety of this season, not whatever little piece of a season we saw last year, which honestly, like we were talking about in the little interstitial conversation there, should have been less because he shouldn't have been playing after you had the AC joint injury, the shoulder injury, call it what you want. It's the AC joint of your shoulder, but he shouldn't have had continued to play after that. So that's going to improve that. It's going to improve your passing game overall because he'll be there and they'll be playing better. Hopefully it'll also affect in a positive way the running game, which then will hopefully maybe mitigate some of the time that the defense has to be on the field. Also some field positioning, also scoring. Like it's so many positive things come from having a better offensive line, and I'm really excited to see where this unit goes because that's going to be the driving factor towards that 8-win season, which would be over the 7.5 win total. I don't think we're going to go much over that, much further over than 8. Like I'm not sitting here saying, well, if the offensive line is great, then 11 wins. No, I'm not saying that, but I mean, if you play to the level that, Phil Steele has them ranked, that, where the coaching has been before at previous stops, the level of the talent among this group and performance. Again, you have all conference guys and Matt Lee and Javion Cohen coming over. Zion Nelson is thought to have first-round NFL draft talent. Anez Cooper looks to be first-round NFL draft talent also as a sophomore. Francis Mauigoa is a verified freak of an athlete, huge, fast, shockingly quick for a man that size, powerful, strong, mean, all those things. That group of 5 is really, really, really going to be integral to leading us forward.
Florida State's a better team. Clemson's a better team. After that, Texas A&M's probably a better team. And then there's a few teams that are obviously on the same level. North Carolina, NC State, Louisville. It could break better than that, but yeah, you have to defeat a lot of teams that at this point, until proven otherwise, are on the same level.
Right. And I mean, those toss-up games, even if you go, split those 50-50 in those, get out of here, FB schedules. I don't care about that pop-up. But, I mean, if Miami is anything less than 4-1 through the first 5, that's the Battle of Miami versus Miami of Ohio in the opener, Texas A&M, Bethune-Cookman, the Sacrificial Lamb game, at Temple, bye week, and Georgia Tech the first week of October. If we're anything less than 4-1 coming through that, then you're looking squarely at potential, at the under. And even if you go 4-1 through that, I think you could, split the last 6 and end up at 8-4, which is right about where I think the ceiling is. I think that second half of the season after the bye is going to be tough. You have to play North Carolina, who for 20 years now, ever since Connor Barth hit that goddamn kick in 2003, has been the thorn in our side. So literally going on 20 years with them. And so you're in Keenan Memorial up in Chapel Hill, which, I mean, if you're expecting to get any favorable call from any referee ever in the state of North Carolina as a Miami Hurricanes fan for any sport at any time ever, I don't know what to tell you. And look, it's just not going to happen. But I know that, like, when you come to the margins, it's like, oh, well, maybe they call that holding on them, or maybe they don't call it against us. Don't expect that. We're going to get the short end of the stick. It's just going to happen. And you're going to play through it. But, like, you have to play through that. You have to know that, right? But that being said, that's going to be really tough, as it's been over the course of the last 20 years. Clemson the next week, they've beaten our brains in all of the last few times. Went out to Marlins Tigers game with my buddy Phil, who's from South Carolina, got his master's from Clemson. And he's like, yeah, we're talking about recruiting. Oh, I'm going to be at that game and everything. I'm like, okay, Phil. He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, y'all beating us 9-3 the last few times. So we got to overcome that. Don't know if that's possible. Virginia, that's just a stupid game. It shouldn't even be close, but who knows? NC State, Robert and I plus Brennan Armstrong, again, they could be problematic. In NC State, quietly, Dave Doran has finished with fewer than 8 wins twice in his tenure there. And one of those 2 times was his first season there. So, like, we have beaten them repeatedly recently, but, like, remember that game a couple years ago with Derek King in the COVID season? That was a shootout. You know what I mean? So, like, do I believe we can beat them? Yes. Do I believe we should beat them? Yes. Is it going to be a walkover? No, I don't think so. Then you go up to Doak Campbell for Florida State, who's always going to be keyed up, and I think right now is a better program and probably a more, a better team this season. Louisville should beat them, but, they just want to be a thorn in our side, and they would love nothing more than to beat us in our barn as one of our 3 tentpole teams, to be like, hey, all you South Florida recruits, maybe some of the higher caliber ones will want to come up. That Capers kid who reclassified from 24 to 23, he's good. I don't think he's a 5-star. I would put him like firmly in a 4-star range. I think he was an early 5-star. I don't think that would have fully translated over, but whatever. That's, the latest, like, hey, this is the highest rated recruit we've ever gotten, basically. So, come and be like him. And then at Boston College, I mean, we should curb stomp them, but it is the last week of the season, and who knows, if we're checked out. But I think after that bye week, it is going to be a little bit more of a challenge. I think we have more losses. More of our losses this season are going to come in that section. But after the end of that game on October 7th against Georgia Tech, Miami really needs to be 4-1. Like, really.
All these shows, of course, are archived on YouTube. Therefore, all of your comments are technically archived as well. But if we could have the comments from Falconer TRX archived in text where we could read them all, that would be an entertaining show, just to read off Falconer TRX's comments, because he's a creative sort. There's no doubt about that. Pro tip: wives prefer tipping the voice of college football over strippers.
Hey, man. Okay, I'm with it. So you heard the man, and the knowledge through his lovely wife, because remember, he is married because he missed the one show because it was his wife's birthday. So pass that on to the masses. I get it.
Slim Shady Canes, appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the contribution. Sir, am I the only person that looks at it as a bit of a problem when you're starting true freshman offensive linemen, at best not good if you have injuries?
Yes and no, because this group had to get rebuilt, and you bring in depending on the list you want to say, 2 of the top 3 tackles in this last class. The third one being Caden Proctor from Iowa, who went to Alabama, who's a freak, like 6'7", 340. But of the same size as Samson Okunlola and Francis Mauigoa. So, would you rather have it like Wisconsin, where even if you get a 5-star guy, you're going to redshirt them and not see them for a year and develop them in terms of their body and their technique? Absolutely, that would be preferable. But we're in the building phase to get there. And so if you need guys to play right now, on the contrary to what you're saying, Slim Shady, I would rather have these 5-star dudes than, I know for a fact Francis Mauigoa is more ready to play now than Zion Nelson was as a true freshman 5-6 years ago. Remember, he was 6'4", 230 pounds, and we had to put on 60, 70 pounds on him from when he early enrolled because he was going to go to Appalachian State or whatever, first team All-State in South Carolina as a senior, but he was 230 pounds playing left tackle. So we had to pack it all on, the weight onto him and everything to try to get him ready. Francis Mauigoa is more game ready right now. He was more game ready as a high school senior every day of that season than, Zion Nelson was even as a college freshman. So, is it problematic? Yes and no, because you're always going to create space for the truly elite. I believe Caden Proctor is going to start for Alabama. What's his name from Okeechobee? Jesus. Number 74. He was 6'9", offensive lineman, Alabama, just left there. 5-star recruit. Everybody wanted him.
The guy that did a flat jump.
Him. I can't even remember his name.
I can't even.
Evan Neal.
Yeah.
Right. He went to IMGs from Kissimmee and everything. Miami went after him and was like, yo, we're going to start you day one. And he's like, I'm going to go to Alabama. started day one at guard and then kicked out to tackle. Like for elite players anywhere on the field, right? These program-changing players, right? You're going to save room for them. You're going to allow them to play their way onto the field. So I would rather have an elite player and put him in if we need somebody there, as opposed to having to stretch and saying, well, we need a guy and we're going to take whichever medium guy we have and have that be the guy that steps in. So, I mean, it also talks to the talent acquisition because, like, again, like I'm talking about, you have 2 5-stars that you could potentially put in there. So you're not just picking random mid, like developmental 3-star guys who are fine. You know, like I was talking about on the offensive line before, and I've said it here before. John Feliciano and Jesus, what's the other one? The other one went to Cypress Bay. I'll remember his name later. But like they came in as 3-stars and developed and eventually ended up as like second team all conference dudes. That's fine, but you have elite players, you need elite players, and you're bringing the kind of talent that you need. So like to answer your question or to respond to your statement, 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. Like, would you rather not have to put in a freshman that you just brought on campus? Yes, because you would like to have more quality depth across your program. But at the same time, if I'm getting the elite players that I need and I think we need to succeed on this team, putting them in if they're game ready is also a thing that I believe we should be doing. So I see what you're saying, but it's not – this whole entire freshman class is not starting, right? This is not the 1993 Michigan men's basketball team where, hey, all 5 elite McDonald's All-American recruits, we're going to open the season. It's going to be all y'all boys. So, Chris Webber from Country Day, Juwan Howard, Jalen Rose, Jimmy King, and Ray Jackson. All 5 of them dudes, look, these dudes we just brought in because Michigan was just coming off of sanctions and things like that, or like whatever, had turned over that roster. Cool. All 5 of these dudes are going to come in. It's not the same thing where like all 25 freshmen that we just signed are coming in. This is a chosen and selected few spots, but offensive line, yes, is a spot where you probably do need are aided more with the development of just your physical strength over time. But in selected instances, I'm okay with it. But in general, you do want to have more talent in your program, but still allowing for special players who hopefully you're recruiting on a rolling basis to be able to step into major roles right away.
This is where my brain always has to dig a little bit deeper, try to find something, wants more data, more depth of information. So first of all, I think it's extremely significant that Miami was able to secure 2 of the top 3 tackles in the nation. And I know that's Mario Cristobal's wheelhouse, but still, when you think about all the great programs out there, and Miami got 2 of the top 3
from both coasts. I know that Mauigoa transferred to IMG, but I mean, you're talking about Washington State and the Maryland area, and getting them from here to come down to like that took work.
What I would want to see is a study done to tell me when I'm looking at that tackles list for any particular recruiting class or any position, I would want to know what are the number of players on that list at that position that we can expect on average to be, let's say, quality starters at the Power 5 level. Is it going to be 10 tackles, 18 tackles? What's it going to be? I can't imagine it's much past that. Maybe 15
over the course of a career. Yeah, I would say maybe even into the 20s. Now it might take, again, it over the course of a career, it might take 3 or 4 mango seasons. You know what I mean? It might take that extra time. So everybody's not going to be, a Mauigoa like a day 1, game 1 kind of a thing. But yeah, I would say probably into the 20s of guys who could play. I would say 20 total because there's going to be some busts, there's going to be some misses, there's going to be some injury things, but I would say of the list in the 20s of like played consistently at tackle even. Yeah, I think that's reasonable off the top of my brain.
Steel Cane CT. Cam, are we on the same level as a national champion nowadays?
North
Am I reading
Carolina.
that correctly? Pardon me?
North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina. Are we on the same level as North Carolina? Okay, UNC. My bias towards Miami makes me say no, but evidence says yes. Maybe that's flipped around, possibly. I would say, if anything, North Carolina is on a higher level, but I would argue that they're basically on the same level.
Yeah, I would say we're on the same level, but they've been beating us more than I would like.
Yeah, they've been winning more games.
All right, just doing a quick Winspedia search.
Oh, come on. You're not going to rely on me?
If you got it.
I think I can get most of them, unless we're going to go back like 25 years.
Well, I'm just looking really quickly.
Since Mac Brown's been around, let's say.
Right. They've won 2, 4, 6 of the last 8 against us.
Oh, you're talking about the series. I thought you were talking about
total
no wins.
No. Gotcha. Just the series. So 6 of the last 8, including the last 4, they've won against us. So like that's the thing that you would think, okay, like it separates, but like in terms of like total wins and like things like that, recruiting rankings, like we're at or above them. Definitely in the recruiting department, but like Mac Brown and his return to Chapel Hill has done his dollar in terms of recruiting. Like he's very, I think, underrated. I don't think people really look at the totality of the classes he's brought in, but like he's elevated the talent on that roster where, yeah, they're in the top group of the ACC. They made it the top 4 in terms of talent for sure. But yeah, I think that right now we're on the same level, but they've had more head-to-head success against us, including embarrassingly so, because they're still running from that game in 2020. Jesus Christ. Or 21, whenever that was, they had them 2 running backs run for 8 billion yards.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, it was that was the 20 season. Yeah, 2020. They're just running counter again and again and again and again and laughing at us. So like, yeah, it feels bad because like, 6 of the last 8 times we played, they've come out on top. But overall, I mean, I don't think that their records have been that much better than ours.
Slightly.
Well, I mean, slightly, but not crazy. You know what I mean? Let's look back here.
I'm doing the math right now. Mac Brown's 30-22 since 2019. And Miami, let's see, those same seasons went 6-7. That was Manny Diaz last year. Then 8-4. And then 21 was 7-5. And then 22 was 5-7.
7-6 for Carolina, 2-9. Like, I mean, yeah, it's very comparable. Which is to say, like, for neither program really at national championship caliber, or really even much above fairly okay in the ACC, But yeah, they've beaten our brains in pretty routinely head-to-head recently, so that's what needs to change. But we have the talent on the roster to be able to, beat them and other teams and do better, but that is the nature and foundation of our struggle currently, and we need to update that and improve that moving forward. But in general, yeah.
Muhammad, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Again, this is our Miami show that we do with Cam each and every Wednesday. Join Cam on stateoftheu.com. You can do that each and every day now that we're in football season. Get there and get locked in. Muhammad says, Cam, call me crazy, but I've had enough of these North Carolinians. They act as if they're Ohio State or Georgia. I want to beat them more than Florida State this year.
I don't know about all that, boss.
Yeah, certainly a North Carolina theme tonight.
Right. But again, I understand why. Yeah, I mean, because look, they have a generational quarterback for another season. They're going to enjoy that clearly because he's going to, get out of Dodge after this year. It would be very not smart to stay after this year if you're Drake May. And yeah, like I just quoted, we've lost to them 6 of the last 8 times, including the last 4. And yeah, they get to flapping their gums. And then there are, players from down here who went up there. So, their families are down here, including, people that I've worked with at various jobs and things like that. So yeah, I get the emotional side of like the chirping, but like, do I want to beat them more than I want to beat Florida State? No. Not me. I mean, I want to beat them. I want to beat North Carolina for sure. But like, if I were to rank them, like, no, Florida State would definitely be above them in the teams that I would desire to beat this or any season. So, yeah, but I mean, and honestly, I didn't even know too many North Carolina fans to really go in and dig and say, yeah, like that they feel that they're on this super elite level, like the teams you mentioned. But I understand why you don't like them, but I would say for me, I'm not going to take that journey with you to say I want to beat them more than Florida State. That's a bridge too far for me personally, but I understand where your emotion comes from.
Yes, and Muhammad, I apologize if I read your comment with a little skepticism. Truth be known, it just sounded a little ridiculous, but truth be known, do I know North Carolina fans? Number one, no. Am I in North Carolina? No. Am I in Miami rubbing elbows with anyone that's gone to North Carolina or is a transplanted North Carolina fan? No. So I don't know. I just can't. I guess I scoffed at it because I just can't imagine, considering them losing 4, 5, 6 games a year, that they would be acting like they're some elite program. Just seems ridiculous. All right. Falconer TRX coming back. Appreciate you, man. How do these new men compare to a Vince Wilfork?
They don't, because like they're not that sized. Like that. Yeah. No. We're not. No. But we have a lot of really good talent in this freshman class. I'm very excited to see all these guys on the field at so many positions. You improve the depth at cornerback between the recruiting class and, transfers. You get 2 5-star tackles. The linebacker room is completely rebuilt from previous, which is so essential. So that even the smaller and more unathletic guys that are currently on the roster will find their way onto the bench because we'll be able to play other dudes. You got elite speed. You got in Christopher Johnson and Ray Joseph and Robbie Washington. You got a big running back in Mark Fletcher. A potential quarterback of the future in Emory Williams, who continues to impress. You got 2 really good tight ends. 3-sport high school star Jackson Carver. And Riley Williams, who's, an All-American as well. Caleb Spencer, who he could be the Honest Cooper of this class when people look back, even like next year, and be like, how in the world was this guy not at the top of everybody's board because of what he does on the field and what he brings to the defense as a hybrid defender? Joshua Horton from Langston Hughes, outside of the Atlanta area, 6'5", 300 as a defensive lineman with elite film. This is a guy, I don't know how he wasn't a 5-star, because he has all of the measurables. He has the height, he has the bulk, he has, the production, he has the testing numbers. I don't get how he wasn't like at the cream of the crop in terms of recruits. But, we have a lot of guys who can come in. Oh, I've gone so far in this talk today, have not even mentioned Ruben Bain, have not even mentioned Malik Bryant. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we got dudes in this class. Yeah, Mo, I do hear you. They did start the U down. That was the Marquise Williams year when they hung $8 million on us, and then they did all of that all the time. So, yeah, I understand the emotion, and I want to beat them as well. But if I gotta pick them or them dudes in Tallahassee, that I guess because I'm working a contract. Well, I mean, look, it's not like I got any love lost for that school in Durham either. Like, don't get it twisted. Like that's where Duke is, in case you guys didn't know. But like, I mean, like, yeah, no, I get it. I get it for sure. So, yeah.
How is the Miami camp? Not internally on campus, but the fans and media, those sorts, following this Florida State connection to the Big Ten and what is being reported and talked about currently?
It's funny because I just saw somebody tweet a thing before I came on here talking about, I wish that Miami was as vocal about getting out of the ACC and everything as Florida State. Like, we should be, taking the lead on this. Let me remind you, it was Dan Radakovich, the athletic director of the University of Miami, who was the first to bring this up to the collective of athletic directors and university presidents months before Florida State decided that they were going to, open their mouths and really start screaming about this. So like the thought that Miami is lacking behind because we're not screaming loudly, I think is faulty. Florida State is in a position, because they're a public school, to be a little bit more vocal about it. They do have one of the largest brands in sports also, and I'm not going to try to negate that. But they're choosing the brash approach to this, and I don't necessarily think that they're wrong, and I think it fits their overall ethos maybe a little bit better to go about things the way that they are going about things. But yeah, Miami's AD was the first one to bring it up as soon as he came over from Clemson and things like that. So like the thought that we're going to be left behind, or that we have not endeavored to look at the same scenario is foolish, because we brought it up first. So you have that, but it will be interesting. I don't necessarily think that, and I saw the comments, somebody say, hey, follow FSU to the Big Ten or whatever. I don't think that we're going to end up in the same place. And I said this for a while. I think that if it was, without extenuating circumstances, which there might be, and the extenuating circumstance and the precipitating issue might be Florida State saying, we are going to push to get to whichever conference we want to get to, as opposed to letting the conferences select. My viewpoint on things, which can be, changed or, with additional information. But I said on here months ago, I think that Clemson and Florida State fit the ethos of the SEC better, and Miami fits the ethos of the Big Ten better. But if Florida State is pushing and saying, no, we want out, and and they're the ones calling and knocking on the door towards the Big Ten, maybe then, because I do think that Miami aligns better with that conference, then maybe we end up in the same spot. But I don't necessarily think that it is not a package deal between Miami and Florida State to wherever they go next. But yeah, I don't think that the ACC conference is long for either of those schools. And Clemson, having been built into the athletic program that they have right now, holistically, not just football, but led by football, of course. I think it will behoove them to seek shelter elsewhere, because the ACC, I don't think it's lasting much longer.
Tattoo Terry, yes, catching Mark and Cam live is a good thing. And for those of you who jump on board a little bit late, what you need to do is you just need to hang on tight. Of course, ride us out for the rest of the live stream. But when you get done, catch what you missed. It all gets recorded, uploaded, and posted to the channel, so you can catch what you missed. With John here, am I reading this correctly here? I rather Miami be in the Big 12. Is that the Big 12? Is that a typo? You don't want to be in the Big 12.
I
want to be in the Big 12.
I don't.
The Big 10?
I don't. No. I don't. I'm just trying to, read the statement and kind of like extrapolate the intent there. Depending on how many teams go to the Big 12, and if you get a couple other, Colorado just went over there, or is going back, old home for them. If you get enough teams, and you're going to have enough. If you're going to have enough programs there, then you can have an automatic berth into the expanded college football playoff, and it would probably be easier sledding there than the Big Ten or the SEC. So, I could see that, but I don't know that that's where I would want to be if I were the University of Miami. And Falconer TRX is correct. The AAU, the research accreditation of the University of Miami helps any move. But again, I do believe that is even more valued in the Big Ten, which has the highest preponderance of AAU research accredited schools. So from that ethos, I think that is the hype on that Tallahassee nurses school warranted. That's funny. I love that. It was Yeah, that's going back to the founding of that school. You can look at the former charter and name and everything. I don't necessarily think that. I think the hype towards potentially challenging for the ACC championship is there. I don't think that they're national championship good. I think that there are a couple pitfalls on that schedule for them. LSU in week 2 or week 1. 1. LSU and then Clemson in week 4. Those are probably their toughest challenges in this season. Their over-under is 9.5, I want to say. I was just listening to a podcast where they were talking about that. I think 10-2 or 9-3 are equally reasonable for Florida State. I don't think that they're an 11-1, 12-0. I don't see that in them this year for a couple of reasons. They really did beat up on a bunch of bad teams last year, including Miami, and they beat the hell out of us. I'm not sure about their consistency. I know that they're going to be explosive on offense. I think that they still do have some holes on defense. To this point, they have not heard anything on Daryl Jackson's waiver, which, if that does not come through, is a massive, massive loss for their defense, because they brought him in, former starting defensive tackle Miami last year, to really shore up the interior of that defensive line on a consistent basis. And if he's not available to play for them this year, that takes something that they thought was going to be passable with him there, and it takes it then to a major question mark for them. And again, you're leading off with LSU, who, I hate Brian Kelly. You know why? RIP to Declan Sullivan. I think he's a terrible person and should be held accountable for that. And I will never, ever, ever forget or forgive that. But my personal hatred aside, that jerk can recruit his ass off and can coach football. And LSU is a very talented team. And I think that they are they have the ability to beat Florida State. I think that Clemson can or will beat Florida State until I see otherwise. So hype is a 10-win team for FSU, I think deserved. Anything past that, like national championship, I think that's a little too far, but I do think that they're in the upper echelon of programs. But I would be interested to see even if they achieve the full level of production and performance across this season that they even had last season, because and you can only play who's on your schedule. So I'm not saying this to fault them, but there were a lot of empty calorie wins for them last year, including the University of Miami, who was, just air puffs. Just absolutely nothing. So yeah, you're thinking these W's, these are real hearty meals, and this is full of protein, and this means a lot. A lot of empty calorie wins for them last year. So I don't necessarily see them at the super top, but as a double-digit win team that should, if things go for them, go to the ACC championship game. I think that kind of hype is warranted.
Talking Canes with all of you. We appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We typically get together every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Cam Underwood, State of the U. What's going on over there?
Got a bunch of stuff, but that South African idiot has broken the algorithm or the connection. So the wonderful articles that we are writing are not being populated on the new Twitter, ZX, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, because he broke the back end connection. So if you're looking for these things, I will try to go over and put them all up on the Twitter machine or Zeets or whatever you want to call it. But position previews are going up. Summer scheming's still up. Got a nice feature piece by Craig T. Smith about a fave, DJ Ivy, with 2 interceptions in his first practice with the Cincinnati Bengals. So making waves and trying to push towards a roster spot for them. Justin DeTavio's mix of a position preview with X's and O's preview about I won't even tell you the position, but it's one that you know and love. And then Kappa Kane actually just posted something, his own take on the University of Miami relative to conference realignment. So we have plenty of great stuff going up. We are setting the schedule of content for the season. Actually, as we speak, I got to send another email on that. So we got plenty of great stuff up and still to come for you over there. So, it's always open 24/7, 365, stateoftheu.com. Please come on over and fan with us. So, yeah, we have great stuff. Unfortunately, like I said, it's not being pushed to social because, South African idiot is a moron and, decided to break a wonderfully built thing. But, hey, onward we move.
I have to admit, I really don't understand what the problem is. You cannot post. You're posting to your site, to SB Nation, to State of the U. What's the Twitter issue?
It's integrated into the content management system. Okay. So the back end, it's not the UI, it's the
IP?
No, I forget what it's called, but they closed it. It was it's the developmental access. I forget the acronym now. But somebody put it in the chat. You know what I'm talking about, but it's like the technical connection on the back end, basically to push it from the content management system onto the social media site.
So now you have to do it manually.
Now I have to go in and then I have to take the things, not to do them manually. And so all my contributors have been texting me like, hey, I wrote this thing, and they're emailing me like, yeah, it's a known issue. It is network wide. The only person, I don't even know if I still have access on that. The only person whose stuff does post to the social, Justin DeTavio. So shout out to him for being an industrious person. But like, he's like one of the only people like across the SB Nation network of sites. So I'm talking college, I'm talking API. Thank you, Pierce. There, the back end system. So the API is a thing that's been messed with to a certain point. So it's not talking through that. Except for Justin DeTavio and like 3 other people across all of the SB Nation portfolio of websites. So I have to go in and put those out individually, and that's something that I will do and schedule. And yes, it's the API. Thank you, Pierce. I have so many acronyms from just life and the new secret day job and everything. It was just it was a traffic jam going on. But thank you for clearing that up.
And Tattoo Terry, for the record, yes, I may have had a confused look, but it was not about the people or the platforms involved. I knew, I followed all of that. I just didn't understand what the issue was.
Yeah, I get it.
Final question: James Williams moving to linebacker. What are your thoughts about that?
I love the fact that he's willing to go where the team needs him, and that means pretty much anywhere in the back 7, but it's a thing that needed to happen, and to be able to really take advantage of his physicality and the talent on the roster. You know what I mean? Like, we can bring in a Markeith Williams to go along Cam Kinchins and then move James Williams down where he has coverage ability that far exceeds any overhang, hybrid defender. He has physicality now, hopefully, that his shoulder has been, worked on, surgically and repaired and things where he can actually wrap up and use that physicality instead of leaning in with his off-arm shoulder and just seeing guys bounce off of him. I think that was a real big important move because and I've said this before, but James Williams has been this size since he was like a sophomore in high school. And when we went to recruiting events, it would be a bunch of us out there and everything. I remember specifically after it wasn't the South Florida Express event. It was like the Nike Regional down here a few years ago. Bud Elliott tweeted, said, this is a big kid. He's going to move to linebacker. And James Williams searched his name on social media, quoted that, and said, "Nah, I'm a safety coach. That's it." And it's just like, you're so big, you can do all of that, right? But you want to be dug in and be like, no, I'm this and only this, and I'm not going to entertain anything else. It gave off in a different way, but it gave off not Terrell Pryor. Jesus, where's my brain today? Huh?
Terrell Buckley?
No.
Somebody.
Torrance Gibson.
Oh.
left-handed Terrell Pryor. That's why I was doing it. Yeah, it gave off Torrance Gibson vibes, where Torrance Gibson is the number one recruit in America, 3 years in the first-round draft pick at wide receiver, but I want to play quarterback. Nah, I'm not going to go anywhere else. Didn't even play quarterback full-time on South Florida Express. He got benched, didn't play quarterback full-time in American Heritage, but when he came in, he ran the Cam Newton package where they're running inverted veer, and he's throwing bubble screens and bombs only because he couldn't throw the goddamn ball. It gave off those vibes of like, look, I get that you want what you want, right? But there's a lot of us who've been doing this for a long time, kid. And we've seen these things, right? And maybe, just maybe, the experience that I had, the wisdom of my experience, should supersede your desire. And that pushback at a point, it just gave off negative vibes, you know? And it was okay because, like, James Williams could play safety, you know, and made even a couple really great plays in center field as a safety last year. But really just saying, look, I'm going to trust in this staff. I'm going to trust in my teammates around me that they can handle wherever they're placed. And I will do what I need to do. And I will do what the coaches ask me to best help the team. And because, like, we're not going to put him in a position to fail. We're going to put him in a position that might be a little bit different than where he's been fighting to play, but might actually open up his game in so many more ways. And I just think the acceptance of that finally is going to be like, no, I'm only a safety. Don't talk to me about anything else. Shut up. Da, 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 da. I think letting go of that and growing up being like, you know what? I am a safety, but I can also play weak side back, or I can also play inside nickel, whatever, star, striker, you want to call it. I can do all those things, and that's not a demerit against me as a safety. That actually increases my value because I can do this, that, and the other thing. And really finally just letting go of this, I have to be a safety, just thing. I think that's such a big step forward, and I think that speaks to the maturity in him that I needed to see, and I'm really excited to now see him utilized in all of the roles that he'll play this year. And it will be many, not just linebacker, not just striker, not just inside safety, not just center field, but he's going to play all of those things and rotate between them based upon personnel, based upon matchup, based upon scenario and situation. And I think that is really where you are going to be able to see James Williams as the defensive weapon that he is, a la, you know, we're talking about, you know, getting a short, fast player as an offensive weapon. I think him being willing to open up his brain and add to his toolbox and say, okay, coach, what do you got? What do you need? And go and do that. I think that's a huge development in a positive way for the University of Miami.
Athletes have egos, and I don't say that in a negative way. So they don't want to admit to having a shortcoming or especially speed from a young athlete. They don't want to be told you can't play corner, you need to play safety. You don't have the throwing arm now that you've gone up a step, so you can no longer play shortstop, you need to play second base. But hey, if you excel at the position, the new position, hey, there are great players everywhere at every position, and they just require different skill sets. All right, Cam, appreciate you being here as always. Hope you have a great week, and we will continue on through August toward game number 1.
Absolutely. So, yeah, you know, we already did a little bit of the drop, but be sure that you go on, check out all the stuff we have coming for you at stateoftheu.com. Socials, we're still at the State of the U. Got to get back on managing those a little bit tighter, but that's okay. My personal Zeet, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, is at Underwood Sports. And you can find me in and around the South Florida streets. Be sure you say hello. Met another couple readers at the Secret Day Job. They're like, you know, had the meetings. It's like, oh, hey, Cam's on the team here now and everything. And they're like, hey, wait, stay on after this Zoom. And they're like, yo, I'm like, my name is Cam Underwood. It says it right here in the Zoom, bro. Like, I've never said anything different. Like, nah, I didn't think it was you. And I'm like, yeah, you know, like, whatever. This is, I mean, my profile picture on there, you know, is a couple few pounds and years ago, but like, name is the same. Like, I don't tell you. So they, did speak to me. So that's been rewarding and whatnot. So, yeah, we're Best dorm on campus then and now. Oof, that is a great question to end on. I loved Stanford Residential College right there on the intramural fields. That's where I lived for all 4.5 years of college. My mentality was always that I could live off campus after college, which I do now. So I didn't need anything, but I had a single room for 2.5 years and whatnot. It was right by the cafeteria, so that was fine. I had friends with apartments on campus. So did that. Also, we won the 2002 Sports Fest Championship of the World as the Penthouse Punishers, my 12th floor crew. So shout out to those boys, some of my brothers, my closest friends in the world. So that was my personal favorite. Had great experiences in all of the dorms. I know that people like AP Dirty Bird, a good friend of mine from college who I had multiple classes with. He's going to say like Mahoney Pearson. That's where the athletes used to live on the other side of campus. There's a University Village now that got built like it was starting being built my 5th year when I was doing my student teaching. So, I mean, then is weird. So, like when I was in college from like 2004, I would probably say most people will say either Eaton, which had the suites, or Mahoney Pearson, which had the suites. They would say those are probably the best dorms. Now, the University Village, right off right on the edge of campus, all in Santa Mauro, are like actual literal apartments, but not by any buildings or like academic buildings. So there's that. And then there's, I don't even know what it's called. What's the new one that like circumnavigates Eaton? I don't know if you've seen it, but it looks really cool. So I would say, at least from the plans that were released when they started building it, that's probably the best dorm right now. But I am a little too old to be in a dorm room at all. So I don't have firsthand knowledge for that. But yeah, that is my medium length answer on that topic.
Next show, folks, bring some friends with you, and we'll do this once again, of course, as we get set for the 2023 season. Appreciate it, Cam. Have a great rest of your week.
See you guys. Take care.